Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Ah, yes, the sound of the San Francisco sea lions down at Pier 49. This is the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 924 for the 21st of June, 2026. Richard Saunders coming to you from the Bay Area, where in a matter of a week, or less than a week, I will be appearing at SkeptiCal in Oakland. More news about that coming up later on in the show when I interview Eugenie Scott. But before that, we have at the top of the show a report by Adrienne Hill from the latest CSiCon, the 50th anniversary of CSICOP, or the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, held in Buffalo, New York State. And this is all about the CSiCon singers, and I was a part of the choir. And we were under the tutelage of Maestro Anthony Trecek-King. Now, Adrienne interviews Anthony, and then we hear the choir in action in glorious stereo. And in fact, this whole episode of the Skeptic Zone is in stereo this week. So if you're like stereo, if you have some earbuds or earphones, you'll get the full benefit. So some bits are in stereo, some bits are in mono. The sea lions were definitely in stereo. Now, after we hear from the choir, I interview Carlos Orsi, who has written a book called What Science Says About Astrology. What a fascinating book it is too, and what a pleasure it was to interview Carlos Orsi just the other day. And his book is very good, and I can sincerely recommend it. You'll see a link to where you can buy the book What Science Says About Astrology in this week's show notes. I certainly learned a lot by reading that book. Later on in the show, we have the Australian Skeptics Newsletter read by Adrienne Hill, who is also, as they say in Germany, unterwegs, on the way, on her trip, gallivanting around Massachusetts, I think. Then to round off this episode, it's time for Trove, and this week we're going to be looking at references to Buffalo, New York, and the paranormal. But now it's time for me to run around the corner into the kitchen and have some lovely oatmeal, or as we call it in Australia, porridge, with some real Canadian maple syrup. Ooh. While I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. You can count on Adrienne with Adrienne Hill.
I'm standing here with Anthony Trecek-King, and we have just finished our second rehearsal for the CFI Choir.
Yes, CFI Singers. CFI Singers.
The CFI Singers.
Oh, wait. We'll get the right word. It's CSiCon Singers is what it is. Yeah, we'll get it. Yeah.
It's early in the morning.
It is early. Yes.
We start at 5 to 8 every morning, and we actually had our last event last night. It finished at 11:15 p.m. So it's amazing, the turnout, first of all, and thank you for doing this. It is so fun. I am learning so much. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I'm a musician and an educator and a conductor. You know, I grew up playing the cello and singing in choirs, have my degrees in music, and so just been doing this a long time and really love, especially working with new singers and new groups and helping them discover their voices.
And very quickly, I couldn't believe the very first day, within about 10 minutes, you had us singing harmony. And as we were walking to the room, Greg said to me, we won't be doing any harmonies at all. There's no way. Sessions are very short, 40 minutes, and we just met for the first time, but you had us all humming harmony without teaching harmony. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, we instinctively know what to do. And often what music classes are doing is training us out of our instincts. And I rather start with what we inherently know how to do. And that's, we all hear harmony. We live in a world that's harmonious, whether it's nature or watching movies or listening to the music. And so our brains and our hearts know what's right. Giving you the permission to do that, I think, is the first thing. And that, to me, kind of opens up the possibilities.
And you have some rules which really help with that, I think. What are the rules?
Yeah, there are 3 rules to improvisation. One is you have to sing something. So all I ask is that you try. There are no wrong notes. That's the really cool thing about improvisation, is that you can throw in really interesting and weird notes as long as you follow rule number 3, which is you do it with confidence. The weird notes don't sound right if you don't sing with confidence. And so you have to sing it with confidence and just kind of feel your way through the music.
Well, it's so fun. I'm so excited about doing the performance tomorrow. We've already learned 2 songs in a very short period of time. I've been in choirs before, but it's like 40 years ago, so a very long time ago. And this is a totally different approach. I love it. It's so fun. But we are at a skeptical conference. What are some myths about singing that you can tell me?
There's a big one that I've heard throughout walking through when I was asking people, do you want to come sing? Oh, I can't sing. And it's simply not true. You can sing, you just haven't learned how. And so there are very, very, very few people on the planet who actually can't sing. There are some that have some physical issue in which they're not able to do this, but the vast majority of people can actually sing. So that, to me, is really one of the huge myths, that I can't sing. And then the problem is they were taught very young. They were, again, told that they can't sing, and then they've hung on to it. So there's some trauma that has to be worked through. Yeah, certainly.
And that's a real sad one. How about technical things? Any myths about technical singing?
Oh, that's a great question. I actually haven't thought about this. I need to think about, like, from a skeptical standpoint, what are some of the issues.
We can make a part 2 if you want to think about it.
Yeah, let's make a part 2. Let's come back to me. Maybe tomorrow we can
Tomorrow we'll talk about it again. All right, signing off for now. Oh, and by the way, this is Melanie Trecek-King's special partner.
Yes. Yeah, I am her special partner, or special friend. That's great. Going back down.
I introduce to you Anthony Trecek-King and the CSiCon Singers.
Well, it's the next day, and I'm back with Anthony Trecek-King, and we have finished our performance. So what do you think?
Oh, I thought it went really well. That was very exciting, and to see everybody on stage and just kind of singing with their hearts out, and oh man, it was awesome. And get the appreciation from the audience, it was really great.
Yeah, I had some people say they got chills.
Well, chills is what we're going for, because you don't go to concerts to hear right notes and right rhythms. You go to a concert to be moved. And if we moved some people, then we did our jobs.
And I sang some wrong notes. I can guarantee it.
Yeah, but you sang them with confidence, and so they sounded great.
Exactly. Yes. I think that was the biggest takeaway I had, because we're so afraid of making mistakes in our lives, and being in front of people and making mistakes is even worse in our minds. Yep. But we need to overcome that, and my wrong notes actually blended in.
Yeah, it's about freedom, right? And if we're so worried about making mistakes, you're going to make a mistake. And so once we can release ourselves from making mistakes, I think that's where real magic can happen, because we're released into the space and we feel free, and we're not worried about judgment, and knowing that we're going to be appreciated for whatever we do.
And even Stephen Hupp, I think, said he had chills.
Yeah, exactly. So that means maybe we'll be invited to do this again.
That was my hope. And I did bring that up in the opening little speech, because I really want to do this again. I don't want to be the only experience with Anthony. And so if anybody is listening and has a chance to ever attend one of his sessions, wherever he is in the world, if they have the opportunity, and in some choir, because you will mostly do choral work, correct?
Yeah, I do mostly choral work, but also orchestral work as well.
It was so good. So back to the myth.
Yes.
Did you think about that?
I should have thought about that. Oh, God. What I was thinking about was the performances, obviously. And one of the big myths is, you have to be perfect. Mm-hmm. Right? The goal is to be perfect. And I don't think that's the goal at all. I think that's a really big myth. And I do have another one after this one. So, again, as we were talking earlier, it's more about moving people. It's not about perfection. And sometimes being imperfect is perfect. So I always say being perfectly imperfect is the goal. Another one that we talked about today was, when everybody was a little kid and they were in elementary school and they joined choir, they were told to get on stage, stand with your feet shoulder width apart, put your hands at your side, and don't move. And that's actually the worst advice we can give our young people, especially these little kids, because they know how to move naturally to the music, and then we train that out of them. And then when they get to me as an adult, I have to train it back in and saying, actually do the exact opposite. I want you to move. You need to be free. Your body needs to be free, because when our bodies are free, we actually sing better. So just physiologically, that freedom frees the voice, because if we have tension anywhere in our bodies, it has a way to kind of migrate into the voice and cause issues. And so you want to be free. You want to be able to move. It doesn't mean we're dancing. It doesn't mean that we're like walking and running around the stage, but not being still. Being actually loose, I think, actually yields better results.
For someone like me with ADHD, the movement is critical. And I just rock back and forth to the music, and it feels better.
Yeah, I'm this exact same way with ADHD, and I cannot do music standing still. I have to be moving in some way, because that's expressive. And there's obviously appropriate and stylistic ways that we can move that still kind of serves the music, and that's what we go for. But I always start with just move. I don't really care. As we said in the rehearsals, the rehearsal isn't about getting the notes right. The rehearsals are about experimenting and kind of testing the boundaries. And if we do that with movement, then I think we're doing the right thing.
At the beginning today, you were talking about the numbers of people who joined. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was expecting, maybe if we had 10 or 15, that's a really good thing. But, on day one, we had nearly 30 people. I thought that was awesome. And we counted today, it was over 30 people. So that's a choir. That's a real choir, and we made real choir noises. And, the next stage, we're going to get ourselves into multiple parts and learn some more music. So I'm excited to see what version 2 looks like.
And we will be playing it. Hopefully it'll come out quite well. We did have our 2 microphones recording it, so we're really hoping it'll come through. These are little tiny microphones. They're not expensive ones, but hopefully the audience is going to hear it and hear how wonderful it is. And you made a comment that it's really hard to sing in that type of an auditorium.
Yeah, ballrooms and these convention spaces are not acoustic spaces. They're actually quite dry, and so it is difficult to sing. It's difficult to hear. But if we use our voices in the right way, we can kind of have the sound carry through the space and do the best that we can. So we made a good noise today, and I loved it.
I think we did too. Yeah. It was so much fun, and thank you so much for the experience. And I really hope we get a chance to do this again, and that they do this every year, and even make it a formal workshop so that you have have more than the, what was it, hour and 15 minutes that we got?
Yeah, it was about that much time. Yeah, so it's not that much time. If we had a little bit more time, we can go a little further. Yeah.
Yeah, we learned 1.5 songs, I'll say.
I think that's right. 1.5, one really, really well.
So thanks so much, and I can't wait to see you again, Anthony.
Yeah, thank you.
This is Adrienne Hill signing off from Buffalo, New York for CSiCon's 50th anniversary.
For thousands of years, people have believed that the configuration of the stars and planets in the sky influences earthly events. Today, astrology is a lucrative global market, with newspaper columns, mobile apps, and professional consultants weighing in on everything from love life to health to the stock market. Yet, scientific evidence shows indisputably that it is simply superstition. Why does astrology appeal to so many people? What makes its prognostications seem plausible? Is there any harm to believing in astrology anyway? Today on the Skeptic Zone, we interview Carlos Orsi, the author of What Science Says About Astrology. Carlos is an award-winning journalist with more than 30 years' experience in science writing. And joining me now, all the way from New York, it's the author of What Science Says About Astrology, Carlos Orsi. Hello, Carlos.
Hello. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Thank you very much for coming on the show, because I was lucky enough to get an advance copy of your book, What Science Says About Astrology, from your publisher. The publisher is, of course, Columbia University Press. I notice it's a part of a series with the overview of what science says, and I found it quite interesting. I thought I knew a little bit about astrology. It turns out I didn't know as much as I thought I did know about astrology. What, from your personal point of view, what's your particular interest? Why did you choose this topic instead of another topic?
Well, I have two main reasons. One, very personal, because when I was a teenager, I got very deep into astrology. And that was my first skeptical awakening, because I did my astral chart and the personality evaluation, and it was perfect. Wow, that's me. And then my mother told me, no, you used the wrong time of birth. And then I redid it with the correct time of birth, and it was perfect all over again. And then I thought, okay, how can two different charts give two different evaluations, and both evaluations feel so true? So then I went into finding out about the Barnum effect and all that stuff. So there is this personal connection, but there is a more general connection. I think that astrology is a very good, I don't know the best word, it is a very good model for pseudosciences and unwarranted systems of belief in general, because it has been here for so long, and it has developed its strategies of the use of language and the use of math to sort of cover up its stuff, that if we understand how it works, we can apply that to a lot of other systems and pseudosciences. And I think astrology is a kind of a model, something that we really can, if you study astrology and you understand how it works in society, how it works psychologically, you can apply it to a lot of other WS stuff.
You can. And what's interesting, of course, you make a good point. It's universal, because if you, well, I don't want to say anybody in the street, but the percentage must be quite high. If you went up to anybody, for argument's sake, and said, oh, hello, what's your star sign? Invariably, they're going to tell you. They're going to say, oh, I'm a Leo, I'm a Pisces. Even if they don't believe it, they will probably know what their star sign is.
Yeah, they'll probably know, and it's a good in the sense of it works, a conversation starter, right? I mean, it's a way to from from jokes about pickup lines to business conversations and things like that. It's something that people really use.
It really is. And I found your book quite interesting because it begins with a very readable introduction and overview of the scientific method. And I liked, there's a phrase in the book, and I don't remember which page it's on exactly, not as wrong. You remember in the book where you're talking about something is not as wrong. As we learn more, we get things more right, and we're not as wrong as people in the past. I thought that was a very interesting way to approach it.
I think that it's something that people should understand. I mean, science and knowledge in general, it advances by approximations. There is this example that is not from astrology, but that I sometimes use, about the miasma theory of disease, right? That disease was caused by evil gases and smells that come from putrid matter. I mean, it makes sense because, if you avoid putrid matter and dirty water, you will avoid certain diseases. So it is wrong, but it is not totally, completely wrong. But then when we find out about microbes and stuff, that theory wasn't right, but it was good up to a point. And I think that astrology, when it started as an attempt to use the stars to predict things on Earth, they had perhaps a good starting point because, the position of the stars and the phase of the moon have something to do with agriculture, helps us to know when to plant, help us to predict floods, if the floods were seasonal. But then they just went overboard, right? If it works for the crops and the floods, it should work for love life. No, but I mean, they weren't totally wrong when they started, but then they just went overboard. And I think, I don't know who said that, it was Carl Sagan, but someone said it. Science isn't really looking for patterns in the world. Science is weeding out the patterns we see, but that aren't real, because we see patterns all the time, all over the place, right?
That's an interesting way to look at astrology, but not only the patterns of belief, but of course we're looking at patterns in the sky, little dots that we can make all sorts of pictures and then invent stories. And of course we are pattern-seeking, storytelling animals, so it plays along right in that. And I also noticed in your book, I read with interest that astrology is predicted to be a $22.8 billion industry by 2030. And when there's that sort of money involved, people tend to look the other way and they sort of forgive, even if they don't believe in astrology, but the money's rolling in. You know what I mean? It's a business.
It's a business. I mean, of course, I believe it's less harmful than, say, the tobacco industry. But it's an industry and it brings money on, and people may not even agree with that, but there are people making a honest living out of it. The people who works programming the apps for astrological websites and things like that, they are making a living doing an honest job, even if their bosses sort of aren't. But
it's their job. I know. Yeah, I hear. Now, look, there are so many things in the book. I mean, I could talk to you about all your chapters for a long time, but I had to limit myself a little bit. But for the interest of our audience, we've all heard of sun signs. I know I was born under the sign of Sagittarius until I discovered I wasn't because of the precession of the equinox, and apparently I'm a Scorpio. But how have the sun signs changed since ancient Rome, especially? And you talk about this in the book.
Oh, yeah, the importance, the relative importance of sun signs had a radical change in the early 20th century. I mean, in ancient Rome, now there's debate between historians about when Emperor Augustus, he coined a coin with the sign of Capricorn on that. But we know he wasn't born in January, that is the month of Capricorns. Mm-hmm. So why is Capricorn on his personal coin? It could have been his moon sign or his ascendant, but I mean, at that time, people really took into account the whole chart, and they sort of chose one kind of significant over another. But then in the 20th century, because of some esoterical considerations and very economic considerations, astrologers began to give very strong emphasis on the sun sign. The esoterical considerations were because of the influence of theosophy. That is an esoteric system very popular 100 years ago. And in theosophy, the sun is a sort of a source of mystical power, and so the sun influence was considered to be the foremost. And the economic consideration was the sun sign changes once every month, and it makes easy to mass produce predictions and horoscopes, because the other significance in the horoscope, they change faster. I mean, the moon, I guess, changes every 1 or 2 days. The ascendant changes every 2 hours. So it would, if you would go, if your ascendant is such and such, you would have to make horoscopes every 2 hours, and it would be industrially very hard to do. But with the sun sign, you can place everybody into 12 boxes and just worry about actualizing it once a month. So in terms of mass production and mass printing and things like that, it makes much more sense.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you see the very complex charts astrologers will draw up with the zodiac, and there are lines going everywhere and little indications and numbers. It looks very scientific. You know, I'm not surprised people look at that and think, my goodness, look at all this incredible work that's gone into this chart. But you mention in the book a very interesting chapter here where astrology was actually tested, and astrologers were tested about their abilities and their power. I don't want to give anything too much away for the readers. Were they successful? Who knows? But I found that chapter very interesting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was something that really took off in the 20th century because, I mean, criticisms of astrology from the rational and philosophical point of view, we can find them going back from the early Roman period. And, I mean, philosophers and theologians and logicians and they all saw the intrinsic contradictions of astrology, how twins could have different lives, how a prince and a slave born on the same day and the same time could have the same star chart if the stars would really control their lives and things like that. But those are all kind of philosophical, logical objections. In the 20th century, first with the statistical tools that came in the 19th century, and then with computers, we began to be able to really test astrological allegations in a very empirical way. And okay, it's not a spoiler to say that astrology failed completely in these tests.
You've given it away now. I was wondering when I was reading the book, will they pass the test? Will they? But you make a good point, and of course, the general overarching point is astrology has been studied scientifically. The people who claim to do astrology have been thoroughly tested, and there are very interesting accounts in the book. I think you also mentioned Jeffrey Dean from Australia, who made a very major work into astrology. I think in the late 90s that would have been around. He was working on that, and I once saw him speak on that in the year 2000. He gave a talk about his findings, so I found that of particular interest. Now, to round up, Carlos, when someone comes to you and says, "Oh, hello, Carlos, what's your star sign?" What do you say?
Well, depends on the person, but I usually, can't you guess?
Good answer.
I mean, nowadays it is sort of a risky proposition because, of course, with social media, they can find my birth date anywhere online, I guess. But if they try to guess in the codes there at the moment, it's fun because, okay, so there are two or three signs that are stereotypically more skeptical or rationalistic than others. So they sort of try one of these, And sometimes they're right, sometimes they aren't. But I mean, it's...
So the book is What Science Says About Astrology. It's part of a series. It's very readable. I found it a very good way to look at the history of astrology, the theory behind the sun signs, all sorts of things about where the moon and the star were and how people know it was a sun sign if the stars aren't visible during the daytime, things I didn't consider before. The publisher is Columbia University Press. The book is in release now. I will add a link in the show notes, folks, where you can pick up a copy of this book. And if you're interested in astrology, I can recommend this book very much. I think it would make the perfect gift for somebody in your family who might follow their star signs or astrology. Well, Carlos Orsi, all the way over there in New York City, a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a really pleasure talking to you.
Podcast, you have to start.
I do.
Hi, this is Eugenie Scott. I'm introducing Richard Saunders, who's the host of this podcast.
I'm the host of this. Hello, this is Richard Saunders, the host of the Skeptic Zone. I'm here with, well, it's Eugenie Scott. Well, my goodness me, how are you?
What a surprise.
What a surprise.
Hello, Richard.
I'm here to talk to you about SkeptiCal. Now, we've just had CSiCon in Buffalo, New York, which was an outrageous success. We have a week or so to cool our heels, to get our thoughts together. Less than a week.
Less than a
week for SkeptiCal.
Yes, less than a week. On Saturday, June 27th, we will be having the SkeptiCal Conference, which is the Northern California Regional Skeptics Conference that you may very well have heard of if you're a USA or maybe even an Australian listener, because you have helped us promote it for many, many years. SkeptiCal is, of course, California, Northern California, and we pride ourselves on being the affordable skeptical conference. It's not terribly expensive to register.
Yeah.
And the reason why that is so, because we use local talent. We don't pay for people's transportation and housing and all that kind of stuff. But the lovely thing about living in the Bay Area is that there's a lot of local talent, a lot of scientists.
Certainly is.
Scientists, journalists, people who study who study misinformation and pseudoscience, and so we have a wonderful list of people to choose from.
Yeah. Now, who are some of the names appearing, the faces you can see and meet and greet and talk to, apart from, well, a certain blow-in from Australia?
A blow-in, always welcome blow-in from Australia. Well, that kind of gets to another aspect of SkeptiCal, and that is that we had a T-shirt one year that read "Not Your Usual Skeptics," because we of course have some familiar faces, some people that are well known in the skeptics community, such as Richard Saunders.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
And such as Susan Gerbic, and such as Ross Blatcher. But we also have people that maybe you don't know, and that's good too, because this way you're introduced to people who are creative and who are thoughtful and who have interesting ideas. One person that I've read a blog of, but I have not actually met in person, and I'm looking forward to meet, is Brennan McKenzie, who is the Skept Vet. He's a skeptical veterinarian.
Okay.
You'll enjoy meeting him.
I will.
He hangs out with some of the usual skeptics, as it were, and what he does is give a critical look at some of the pseudoscience that, alas, is increasing in the field of veterinary medicine.
Certainly is, yes. It's very worrying to see that. Acupuncture has been common for a while, sadly. Yeah.
I know, it's so nutty. It really is. What can we say? Somebody that we have never had before, but we are very definitely looking forward to, and someone who many of the American or even international listeners of the Skeptic Zone may know, and that's Thomas Smith, who actually has a number of podcasts, one of which is specifically oriented toward skepticism. So I think that he's going to be a very interesting person to talk about. I didn't mention, but there is a theme for this year's meeting, and that is misinformation and disinformation.
Right.
Although not everybody is talking specifically about that.
Yeah.
Although your topic is the mind-body wallet,
Yes.
which is full of misinformation.
Full of misinformation, absolutely,
That's right.
yes.
So whatever you talk about, it's going to be in there. One of the people that we have who has accepted our invitation that I'm very excited is an old friend of mine, and that's Bruce Alberts, whom Americans who are scientists will remember as the former editor-in-chief of Science magazine and also as the previous president of the National Academy of Sciences, which is a pretty big deal in this country.
Really? Wow.
As you can imagine. He received the National Medal of Science from President Obama.
Wow.
And he is somebody who is not only an eminent scientist in his field, but also has been completely dedicated to science education, which is how I met him through my work at NCSC. And Bruce is going to be talking about how science education can produce us from misinformation. So that is going to be a real treat to have him as well. We have people that have never spoken at SkeptiCal before and that are not known in the skeptical community, but which I think have some very interesting ideas, such as Dr. Peter Hess, who is among his many talents, he is also a firefighter.
Oh, okay.
And here in California, we have a major problem with wildfires.
Yeah.
And alas, you certainly know this well in Australia.
You bet, yeah.
With global warming and everything else.
Yeah,
The
terrible.
situation's getting bad all over.
Yes.
And he's going to be talking about a skeptical examination of wildfire risk. So he's going to be talking about misinformation.
That's an interesting topic.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy
Yeah, why
listening
not?
to him.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Susan Gerbich's going to be
Susan
here.
Gerbic. What can we say?
What?
And this year it's in Oakland. I think the
It
last
is.
time I attended in person it was Berkeley, downtown Berkeley. But this year it's a few miles south, isn't it, in Oakland?
Well, very easy to get to.
Very easy to get to.
It's the Oakland Asian Cultural Center, OACC. And that is located just a short walk from the 12th Street BART, which is our light rail.
Yep.
So it's very easy to get to. If you have to drive, there's a parking structure right there.
Oh, great.
But it's this will be like the third time, I think, that we've met at OACC over the years.
Okay.
So we're old hands.
Oh, good.
It's a gorgeous auditorium, one of these wonderful old-fashioned auditoriums with a stage and a big curtain and all that kind of stuff. I love this place. It's really great, and the people there are just terrific. It's right in Oakland's Chinatown, which means lunch is going to be an easy sell. There's lots of good places.
I know that area.
I
Yes,
think
I've
you might.
walked around that area quite a bit. Wow, that's a great venue and a great convenient location.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
It's-
If you want more information about SkeptiCal,
Yes, I do. Yes.
go to SkeptiCal.Con.com. And you will find how to get tickets. You can find more about the speakers and their talks. You can find out more about OACC. You can find out everything your little heart desires.
Wow, that's great. SkeptiCal.com.
Correct.
A bit of a mouthful.
And
but
if
you'll
you're
get there.
anywhere in the Northern California area, come by.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. And besides that, we have a fabulous T-shirt that was designed by Kernan Coleman, which Kernan's T-shirts have been a regularity of SkeptiCal. This is our 14th SkeptiCal.
No, really.
It's true.
Oh my goodness.
It's true. I'm feeling old, but that was the case before then. Anyway, you can get a very, very cool T-shirt, and you can also get your tickets and information SkeptiCal.Con.com.
Excellent.
Come and see us.
I can't wait, Jeannie. I'm looking forward to being there and speaking to the Northern Californian skeptics, as I was last time, and I think it was some years ago. I was in person anyway.
Yeah, we
Too
haven't
many
had you
years.
for a SkeptiCal. Of course, one of our problems was that with COVID, we had a hiatus where we did not meet in person.
Yes.
So last year we started meeting in person.
Excellent.
And one of the things that we're finding that other organizations have found as well is that people are slow to come back to in-person meetings.
Yes, they are. We found that in Australia too. It's strange. Well, it's strange. I mean, COVID's never happened before, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's meant a lot of interesting changes. But yes, but it's good to see people are coming back. And again, look, folks, if you're coming to SkeptiCal, say hello. We'll be there.
Say hello to Richard. Say hello to me. See you at SkeptiCal, June 27th in Oakland, California.
everyone. This is Adrienne Hill, coming to you from Somerville, Massachusetts in the United States. And I'm going to read the highlights from the Australian Skeptics Newsletter. This is newsletter number 249. Now don't forget, you can sign up to this newsletter at Skeptics.com.au and get the full report, complete with all the links, every other week, right into your inbox. But let's see what our news editor, Dee, has for us this time. Hi all, says Dee. For our upcoming collaborative convention, Nauticon, Australian Skeptics is proud to be presenting multiple scholarships for students to attend. We encourage you to forward details to applicable students. Our esteemed challenge coordinator and investigator, Richard Saunders, and Australian Skeptics President, Jessica Singer, were featured on Nine's A Current Affair for their skeptical viewpoints on grief vampire psychics and the buried remains of Noah's Ark at Mount Ararat. We don't relish the opportunity to report on the third wave of UFO disclosures, though it seems we were still experiencing this craze. Hopefully, the recent Spielberg movie, Disclosure Day, could bring some welcome levity. We at the Australian Skeptics have teamed up with the Skeptics Guide to the Universe to bring you Nauticon Skepticon, Life, the Universe, and Everything, our 42nd annual conference. In the meantime, read on. Dee. Okay, Dee, I will do just that. A current affair TV news show has been offering some skeptical viewpoints. Richard Saunders interviewed on a local grief vampire. In an interview with 9 TV, Richard Saunders gave his opinion on Dolly Adamson, a YouTuber who uses a so-called spirit box to speak to celebrities and, children who have passed on. And Jessica Singer discusses Noah's Ark revelation. Mount Ararat was thought to be the summit that Noah's Ark reached at the end of its 40 days and 40 nights, plus, at sea. Jessica Singer weighed in on the theological discussion. Visit www.skeptics.com.au for the full story and links to the videos. Are so-called repressed memories making a comeback? The recent trend goes beyond arguing that trauma affects the body. It rests on the far more contentious claim that traumatic memories live in the body, inaccessible to conscious memory. Sadly, we can't repress this trend enough. And as a side note, I have many repressed memories. I forget to do laundry, dishes, and walk the dog all the time, and that last one can cause some problems. Anti-vaccine activists misstate the Trump executive order on vaccines. At the start of this month, Donald Trump signed off on an overhaul of the childhood vaccine schedule with a new executive order. It continues to be up in the air what the intentions are, with advocates on both sides claiming a triumph. A filmmaker exposes a new clip showing classic 1967 Bigfoot footage was staged. The Bigfoot craze was fueled by the now infamous grainy footage of a Sasquatch filmed in 1967. The iconic, shaky 59-second silent clip shows an enormous, hairy creature, later nicknamed Patty. Filmmaker Mark Evans, in his recent documentary Capturing Bigfoot, features a 40-second clip from 1966 of what could be described as a trial run for the original film. We are on the edge of our seats waiting to see that film. Scientists reveal why some people see ghosts and others don't. A psychologist identifies 3 mental triggers that may explain many ghost encounters. Quote, without ruling out the supernatural, end quote. I think it can be explained It's no longer in the realm of supernatural. A Washington priest was removed after linking UFOs to demons. A cute, if unoriginal, claim. A priest who thinks UFOs are demons. He's now been sacked as an exorcist in the U.S. Capitol. Meanwhile, a UFO survey that states 84% say the U.S. government knows more than it's telling. The current fad hits home. It's up from the 50% who thought the same in 2010. Amusingly, a third batch of declassified UFO files. There's a third batch of Pentagon UFO reports. And guess what? Still nothing, except one person suggests that UFOs may really be fuzzy balls. So maybe the videos we see are actually in focus. Items of interest. A psychic makes a terrifying claim about 9 disasters. Apparently, there's going to be some floods, some fires, and some sort of energy shift. The clincher comes towards the end, where she reveals she's from Jupiter. Well, that kind of explains everything. Silly story of the week. A Brazilian psychic says UFO mothership is to abduct hundreds of spectators during a FIFA match. Dope. Story of the week. Question of the century. If an alien asked you, what is music? What would you play for them? One suggestion, quote, play them something on the bagpipes so they would sawed off, end quote. Well, that's all for this week. And I am now recovering from a very busy weekend at CSiCon in Buffalo, New York, where I got to hang out with many old and new friends, including Richard Saunders and Laura Benham. Part of the amazing weekend was going to the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe's extravaganza, which is, as I understand it, a mini Nauticon. It was so fun that I was crying, because I stopped giggling, of course, and laughed so hard that tears were running down my face. Now, the rogues talked about how excited they were to be heading to Australia for Nauticon, and even had us chanting. I think they were trying to plant a brainworm into our heads so that we would all buy tickets to the show. And since that show, I have developed a strong urge to travel to Australia. Now, for those who missed the show, here we go.
Nauticon! One more time, here we go. For real?
Nauticon! Oh, that was awesome. Thank you.
This is Adrienne Hill signing off from Somerville, Massachusetts, in the United States.
Once again to go back to those archives at Trove at trove.nla.gov.au, the online resource from the Australian Government and the National Library of Australia. What an endless well of information, a limitless pit of digitised resources. And this week, since I was recently in Buffalo, New York, I thought I would look for references to the words paranormal and Buffalo. Not that I was expecting a ghostly buffalo itself. However, there are references to those two words, as in the city of Buffalo in New York State. And our first entry here comes from the Canberra Times, dated the 5th of January 1995. Last year, a dismal one for psychics. How one envies the USA, its bold psychics prepared to go out on a paranormal limb while cautious Australian psychics will only mutter that there is a chance that in 1995, Dr. Eugenie Scott may say something harsh about men. And I'm not sure about that reference, but we can look it up later. Or you can look it up later, I don't know. By contrast, let us shuffle off to Buffalo, where the Skeptical Inquirer, the magazine, has put together its annual scorecard of how well the United States how well the United States soothsaying, psychics went in 1984. As usual, the psychics had a dismal year. Among the paranormally assisted predictions for 1994 that came to nothing was the prediction that Charles Manson would have a sex change operation, and that Madonna would marry Boy George, that scientists would perfect a car that would run on tap water, that Madonna, again, instead of marrying Boy George, would marry a Middle Eastern sheik and become a, quote, totally traditional wife, end quote, and that Princess Diana would reveal that an appliance repairman and a postal worker fathered her 2 sons. In spite of the failures the predictions do have, save for the relatively mundane one about Princess Diana, which just sounds like a reasonable surmise, a certain soothsayer flair. And that's strange, that's where the story ends, and I'm not sure that's a complete sentence or not, but nevertheless. Now we have what's this from the year 1986, on the 3rd of April, from the Canberra Times. Lots in the Canberra Times, in a column called Gang Gang. Nonsense deserves skeptical response. Quote, the best remedy for nonsense, end quote, said Professor Paul Kurtz, quote, is a good dash of skeptical common sense, end quote. Professor Kurtz is the founding chairman of the US-based Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal and was in Canberra, where you would have to be skeptical of politicians, yesterday as part of a 2-week tour of Australia. He spoke at the Australian Skeptics Annual Convention in Melbourne at the weekend and at a meeting of Canberra skeptics on Tuesday night, and was intending last night to view Halley's Comet from a quiet bush spot near the capital. Did he really expect to see anything at all? And I'll break in here briefly to say I remember seeing Halley's Comet in 1986 and being a little, shall we say, disappointed. Professor Kurtz is also a professor of philosophy at the State University of New York at Buffalo, an author and/or editor of 24 books, and editor of the magazine Free Inquiry. He is concerned about the, quote, rapid growth, end quote, since World War II in the belief in things paranormal, space-age religions, cults, and monsters, and believes the media are largely to blame. Quote, the media tends to dramatize and sensationalize. It's very profitable, end quote, he said. Quote, skeptics say, look, someone ought to examine these beliefs in a scientific way. You have to have an open mind about the unknown, but should also use evidence and reason to test hypotheses. There are certain things that have not been accounted for scientifically, but we're constantly unlocking the secrets of the universe, and you cannot say that this or that is unknowable, end quote. Professor Kurtz has little time for spoonbenders, whom he calls magicians, or astrology, which he says is based on the premise that the time and place of a person's birth determines their destiny and that the earth is the center of the universe. However, he claims to have a very open mind and thinks it possible, even likely, that there is organic matter in outer space. Quote, the question is whether it's intelligent organic matter, end quote, he said. He found Australian skeptics refreshing in that they seem to have an, quote, inboard native common sense, end quote, and believe that Australia was as advanced as any country in the world in the area of skepticism. One unfortunate aspect, however, was our, quote, quite prevalent belief in astrology columns, end quote. And that is the limit of what I've discovered in Trove, but we'll look for one more entry maybe over at Google Newspapers. And we turn to the Lawrence Journal World dated the 17th of October in 1992. Skeptics, doubters, disbelievers shoot down paranormal claims. And this story is by Karen Argue from Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Irvine, Texas, or Irving. You've got your marauding space aliens, your haunted houses, your out-of-body experiences, your psychic predictions, and a smattering of beyond-the-grave messages. Debunking this stuff, or at least offering alternative explanations, could be a full-time job. For Barry Carr, it is. Carr is the executive director of the National Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, based in Buffalo, New York. This weekend, he's coming to Irvine, along with some 250 to 300 fellow doubters, disbelievers, debunkers, and disputers. The committee will gather Friday through Sunday for its annual convention, which this year is being hosted by the Dallas-based North Texas Skeptics. The group, which Carr describes as a mixed bag of scientists, educators, a psychologist or two, science writers, and a sprinkling of interested laypeople, takes its mission seriously. That mission is to publicize the other side of the paranormal coin, he said. Quote, there seems to be a lot of attention given to people and events with paranormal powers, and these are being reported as straight fact, without a critique of the evidence, end quote, Carr said. The committee was formed in 1976. The late science fiction writer Isaac Asimov was a founder. To sift through that evidence and to act as an information clearinghouse, Carr said. These days, the committee's quarterly magazine, the Skeptical Inquirer, reaches some 39,000 of its nation's unconvinced, Carr said. Well, this year's convention schedule includes the usual seminars. One is on crashed sources, another on why more women than men tend to believe in paranormal. But the fun doesn't stop there. The committee will premiere its latest cinematic offering, a 45-minute video titled Solved Mysteries. I wonder if I can see a copy of that somewhere. I must look. The film includes scientific explanations for recent mind-over-matter firewalking craze. The coals on which the self-help gurus walked aren't a good heat conductor, Carr says. I'd like to see these people try to walk over hot frying pans, he added. The item goes on later to say what's harder for Carr to understand is why people cling to those beliefs in the face of evidence to the contrary. Quote, you can explain 99 out of 100 UFO cases, but people will always say, but what about this one? I say, if you took 100 reindeer to the top of the Empire State Building and started pushing them off, how many would you have to push off before you know they're not going to fly? End quote. He agreed that dealing with flying saucers and firewalking all day tends to put a strange twist on life's other aspects. Quote, it can be really hard to go home at night and watch TV, end quote, especially shows that deal with psychic phenomena or UFOs. It goes on later to say, and he's not convinced that things going bump in the night are necessarily poltergeists or that tabloid psychics really have otherworldly knowledge of who is going to be the next president or Liz Taylor's next husband. But how does he feel about the most burning issue of our time? Could Elvis possibly be alive? Quote, oh, sure, end quote. Carr joked, quote, I had lunch with him the other day. I even had to pick up the tab, end quote. Well, there we go, a smattering of references to the word paranormal and the word buffalo, some from the Australian media and one there from the US media. There are more mentions in the US media, so maybe we can revisit this one day again. A paranormal buffalo. That's have you ever had a reading from a paranormal buffalo? I wonder. But it just goes to show once again that when you go to Trove at trove.nla.gov.au or maybe another reference for online newspapers, well, you never know what you might find. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast this week, and thank you very much to Anthony Trecek-King for conducting us at the CSiCon 50th Anniversary Convention. It's been a long time since I've been in a choir. Thank you to those friends and supporters who contribute to the show with PayPal or Patreon at SkepticZone.tv. Your help means the show keeps going. And thank you to those people who were very kind and helped me as I had a bad back. I pulled a muscle in my back or had a pinched nerve on the last day of the convention, and I was not doing too well, sort of hobbling around a little bit. And it ended up with me being at the airport there in Buffalo with my friend Eugenie Scott pushing me around in a wheelchair. That was an odd sight. And if you have problems like sore backs or maybe sore shoulders and sore arms, I know how frustrating that can be. I was very frustrated not being able to get around properly. I'm slowly improving now. But if you're like that too and you have problems, well, I'm thinking about you. Coming up on next week's episode, I hope to bring you interviews and action from SkeptiCal here in Oakland, California. Remember, head to SkepticZone.tv to find out more about that convention. And if you're in the Northern Californian area, in Oakland, San Francisco area, please come along. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from the Bay Area, San Francisco.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for episodes and show notes with links going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone on Facebook, X, TikTok and YouTube by clicking the links at our homepage, together with links to support the show financially via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily those of the Skeptic Zone podcast or any other skeptical organisation.